So I know, even though the title states Oleksandr Usyk's criminally underrated resume, as with all things, it's really relative because I think Usyk's resume actually gets the credit that it deserves, but it's these other all-time greats whose resumes are criminally overrated. But for the sake of, I don't know, expediency, the title is what it is. So after Usyk beat Daniel Dubois, there has been a lot of talk about Usyk as an all-time great and da 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 da, which is kind of weird in and of itself because he had already beaten Daniel Dubois. And as I've proved many times over, talked about on the channel, Daniel Dubois' comeback was mostly illusion. So, beating Daniel Dubois even in the way that he did, did that really enhance his resume? Yeah, sure. But I mean, to a point where there's all this hoopla now, that just doesn't seem very congruent with what actually happened. But, that's the problem with boxing. And definitely Usyk's opponents, and most notably Muhammad Ali. It really, the way we judge fighters first and foremost is based on, let's be honest, how much we like them. Okay? The reason why, and I'm just going to bring up Muhammad Ali because he is the GOAT, allegedly, and there's been a lot of comparisons between the two made, and it would be too long to talk about Lewis. And notice how Klitschko doesn't even get mentioned in the conversation. Because we really didn't like that guy. That's why. That's all that this really comes down to. I have not seen one single fair. You can't call it objective because no one's opinion is objective. It's by definition subject to them. But I have not seen one fair analysis of or resume comparison between Usyk and you name the all-time great. It just doesn't exist. Or maybe it does, I don't know. So I'm not here to tell you that Usyk's resume is better than this guy or that guy. I'm not even here to place it in any order relative to any of his colleagues, if you will, other all-time great heavyweights. I'm just here to talk about the bias. There was a little community post on the Ring magazine where they ask about who had the best jab in history, right? And just to prime everybody, they got Larry Holmes' picture there, like, oh, gee, could have maybe, had a few guys up there, maybe. But, the answers from the people in the comments are, well, obvious answers, right? Muhammad Ali, Larry Holmes, Lennox Lewis, right? NPC fucking answers, which is weird because Vitaly Klitschko took away Lewis's jab, and other people probably have too, right? Foreman took away Ali's jab. I've never seen anybody take away Triple G's jab. Triple G would knock people down with his jab. I've never seen anyone take away Sergey Kovaliev's jab, apart from like double leg takedowns, low blows, headbutts, right? And that guy knocked people out with his jab. Didn't Usyk stop somebody with his jab? I know the guy quit, but hey, it is what it is. Miguel Cotto would knock people down with his jab. But the first two, right? No one's ever taken away their jabs. And they threw a ton of jabs. They were accurate. They were super powerful. And they would stop people with their jab. Break orbital bones. Right? The reason why Larry Holmes, there's another one, Ali, Lennox Lewis, and they had very good jabs. But the biggest reason why their jabs were perhaps better than a lot of other people's jabs is because they were bigger and taller and rangier than most of their opponents. But that's the bias, right? That's the NPC bias. Oh, these guys look like us, or maybe they talk like us. They come from the same country as I do, so they were the best. That's all that this really comes down to. So let's talk about Muhammad Ali. And one great example I always keep giving, forgive me my boldness in stating that, in how overrated Muhammad Ali's resume is that somehow Joe Frazier is considered an all-time great and a great win for Muhammad Ali. Just like one of those, if not the best, maybe the second best win on his resume, right? It's between Frazier and Foreman. Why? What the hell did Joe Frazier do in his career? Oh, he beat Muhammad Ali. That's all. That's all he did that's really worthy of, okay, he had a gold medal in the Olympics. Fair enough. But that's really the only thing, two things that qualify as all-time great achievements. And just the fact that just those two is clearly not enough to be an all-time great, right? So you're telling me that if Usyk gets in the ring with Anthony Joshua, right, and he's a little older, whatever, so maybe he slipped, and Anthony Joshua, fellow gold medalist, beats Usyk, right, in the third fight, that's going to enhance Usyk's legacy somehow? What? That doesn't make any sense. Look, just look at the bias. Usyk would get slammed. It would be a blemish on his resume. But no, right? Frazier beat Ali. Ali beat Frazier. So they're both all-time greats, right? Like, no, well, maybe you should drop one. Maybe. What did Frazier do that was... I mean, fucking AJ beat Klitschko, right? Who did Frazier beat? Besides Ali, who did he beat? So if AJ beats Usyk, that enhances Usyk's legacy, guys. That's absolutely retarded. Of course it is. So another thing that's super duper biased when it comes to talking about Usyk's legacy is, I know we're talking about heavyweight, so you can kind of understand this bias, I guess, or gaffe, mistake. But Usyk's not a heavyweight, right? He is a cruiserweight that moved up. So his entire cruiserweight career just gets ignored, right? That doesn't matter. And the excuse is, well, we're talking about heavyweights now. Well, yeah, but when you look at Muhammad Ali's opponents, he fought a shit ton of cruiserweights. And if we allow for the fact that Usyk's opponents, just as Usyk himself, rehydrated to 210, 220, right? And we trim the fat of some of these butterballs, or slightly overweight, right? Maybe slightly fat heavyweights that Muhammad Ali fought, then I think every single one of his significant wins, and most of the wins on his record, by an overwhelming margin, were just cruiserweights. Oh, but it was called heavyweight. Yeah, so what? But so why aren't we considering Usyk's cruiserweight victories as heavyweight victories when comparing him to someone like Ali? And even in some cases, even Lennox Lewis. If you're fighting guys that are like up to 220 on fight night, and you have a 20-pound advantage like some of these all-time great heavyweights did, I mean, you don't think that's worthy of mentioning when comparing those guys to Usyk, who fought plenty of guys who on fight night were 220 at cruiserweight, and he himself was probably close to that too? That just like completely gets ignored because, well, it wasn't called heavyweight. Who cares? They were a lot of the guys Usyk beat at cruiserweight were bigger than Ali himself, than the people Ali beat. Why shouldn't it count? But I understand that a lot of those cruiserweights, not all, right? Because Michael Hunter did it. Gassiyev's career's not over. Hunter's career's not over. We'll see. But, you know, they haven't really achieved much at heavyweight, those guys. So they're not proven heavyweights amongst the big heavyweights, right? Well, okay, we'll see what happens. I mean, shit, Usyk's not retired yet. Everyone's eulogizing his career already. However, when you take someone like Muhammad Ali, he fought the old guard, he fought his contemporaries, and then he fought the new guard, right? So the old guard that he fought, and that would be maybe Henry Cooper, Sonny Liston, I guess Archie Moore if you want to put him in there, and also who am I thinking of here? Patterson, right? 3 or 4 fighters that are considered good, great, noteworthy, right? Well, not only were all those guys tiny, there were a couple of them, maybe all of them, not listening, but maybe 3 of them were essentially light heavyweights in today's era. But fair enough, they weighed in at the cruiserweight limit or close to it. And that was the old guard, right? And those guys, they didn't fight the new guard. Like, those guys did not compete with Foreman, Frazier, Norton. They did not fight those guys, right? How would they have fared again? Well, who cares? They didn't do it. They didn't even try. Whatever. History, that's the way it happened. Circumstance, I don't care. Right? So why couldn't you consider some of those early Muhammad Ali victories that put him on the map? Kind of like what Usyk did at cruiserweight, right? Those cruiserweights did not mix it with the best, at least, heavyweights. But that's the same case when it comes to Muhammad Ali's early career, right? But Usyk's, because we're talking about heavyweight, right? It's just a superficial analysis. We're not at all considering anything that Usyk did at cruiserweight, even though those guys were bigger than a lot of the early any heavyweights, and definitely the heavyweights he fought early in his career, Muhammad Ali. And they didn't mix it with the next generation, right? Which could be, for Usyk, is AJ Fury, so on and so forth, right? And put a good, fit, tuned up Michael Hunter in the ring with AJ right now. I always pick Michael Hunter in that fight, like a primed up, ready to go Michael Hunter. I was always picking that guy against AJ. Put him in the ring with Fury. Let's see what happens, right? Put him in the ring with Dubois. Let's see what happens. Shit, put Dubois in the ring with Gassiev. Anyway, those fights haven't happened, at least not yet. But the same, again, could be said about Muhammad Ali's early career, where he fought light heavyweights also, by today's standards. But that part of Usyk's career, just because it's called cruiserweight, gets completely ignored. Why? That's biased as fuck, right? And then, just looking at Muhammad Ali's career, I think the thing that dazzles a lot of people is that he had all these names on there. All these names. We recognize all these names. Yeah, because we've been talking about these fucking guys for 60 years. That's why everybody knows these names. And boxing was extremely popular back then. That was the golden era of American heavyweight boxing. People are just in love. Americans, Westerners, are just in love with those guys. They're legends. They've been brainwashed to just, best jab ever, Ali. Ali knocked people out with this jab, didn't he? If it was so great, how come Foreman took it away from him? Anyway. Maybe because he fought a guy his size? Big George. Oh, he was so big. Ali gets credit for fighting Big George, where there was 3 pounds between them? They were the same size. And here's another thing, right? Look at who Usyk is fighting. When you look at Lennox Lewis, Klitschko, who doesn't even get a mention, Larry Holmes, Muhammad Ali, all those great heavyweights, right? They tended, on average, they were bigger than all of their opponents. On average, they were bigger than their opponents. At heavyweight, on average, Usyk is smaller. And he was the same size, more or less. Some guys were smaller at cruiserweight than he, but so be it. That doesn't get mentioned insofar as a guy's greatness. We just act like you could have an objective analysis, right? Well, an objective analysis would count the pounds and inches. It still wouldn't be objective, but it would be more objective. That somehow doesn't figure into the equation at all, right? It's just the names, how many names he fought. Yeah, Ali fought. The guys that Ali fought are better known than a lot of the guys that Usyk fought. Because it's hype. It's all hype. Again, explain to me why Frazier is so hyped up when he didn't do shit at heavyweight except beat Ali, which should count against Ali, not in favor of Ali's resume. That doesn't make any sense. So yeah, there's a lot of names on Ali's resume. But like, why is Ken Norton a name? Because he fought Ali, that's why he's a name. George Foreman is an all-time great, there's no doubt about it. But a lot of that has to do with, a good portion of that has to do with what he did many decades later. And that's not the guy that Ali fought. Like, but somehow, posthumously even, Ali gets credit for, well, I guess Ali was still alive back then, but he just kept getting credit for everything that George Foreman was able to achieve. 30 or so years later. What? Come on, man. Just make that make sense. When George Foreman was a completely different fighter. It was like night and day. But yeah, he's got George Foreman, and besides that, who else does he have on his resume? Who? What undefeated fighter at the top of their game, top level undefeated fighters, did Ali beat? George Foreman. Who else? Who does Usyk have? Głowacki was undefeated. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm doing this off the top of my head. Głowacki was undefeated. Bradis was undefeated. Garcia was undefeated. Fury was undefeated. And Daniel wasn't. There's probably a few more in there that matter, right? Ali has George Foreman and wouldn't give him a rematch. Right? Usyk is forced to give these guys rematches because, we saw that, Fury had a chance. It's all this like fake controversy. People just don't want to give him credit for, a lot of people don't, for his victories. And they always want to pick apart his victories and say, he got knocked out, he cheated, or, he got a gift decision against Fury. He never really bested Fury, so he has to do this again. Ali gets fucking pounded into Parkinson's disease by George Foreman. And then, okay, let's just to even talk about Ali's career, right? I have to suspend disbelief because so many of his fights are obviously fake. Did the FBI investigate any of Usyk's fights or Interpol? Anyway, and it's interesting how no one talks about, dares, maybe some people do, right? Talk about Usyk's, one of his opponents quitting a couple of times after he got his ass beat, quitting, right? And a lot of the OGs don't mention it because, look at Ali's career. Some of them quits were shady as fuck. And more of his opponents quit, really, when you think about it, than Usyk's opponents. So this idea that they had so much more heart back then, they were so much tougher. Well, why the fuck were they quitting on their stool? Injury my ass, right? The FBI didn't believe it. So, yeah, I'm just suspending disbelief that go watch Muhammad Ali versus what was his name? Cleveland Williams. And you tell me that's a real fight. Come on, man. It wasn't a significant one, but the Liston fights were significant. And FBI still investigated those. And he was a mafia-connected fighter, right? The Black Mafia. So what? That was a criminal organization. Anyway, and then no one even dares to mention, when it comes to Ali, all the gifts and that he got. A lot of people thought Doug Jones beat him. A lot of people thought Ernie Shavers beat him. Most people, I don't know about most, but more than with any of the two aforementioned fights, people think that Ali never beat Norton. And who was Norton? A journeyman? Oh, but he beat Ali, so, he's an all-time great too. These names though, that doesn't mean anything. How good were these guys, right? Eh, What undefeated fighters did Ali beat? Look at how many losses he has. Look at how many gifts he got. You can't say that about any of these victories on Usyk's ledger. People have to stretch the truth so much. There's all this fake controversy when it comes to Usyk's wins. He fucking ate a Ford Briedis. Just count the fucking punches, man. Took it to a big puncher, stood in the middle of the ring with a big puncher for long portions of that fight and exchanged with him. And hit him twice as much as Briedis was able to hit Usyk. Not in all of the rounds, but the ones that he won. And he won that fight clearly, man. They gave it to him in fucking Latvia. And here's another thing, right? The fact that Usyk is just an absolute road warrior, taking on guys much bigger than himself in many instances, in their hometowns, over and over and over and over and over again. He went to Russia to beat their champion, adopted, whatever you want to call it, Russian Federation champion. He went to Moscow, the capital of the country that his country was at war with, and took that guy to school. Did Gassiev win a round in that fight? Maybe one. Took him to school. Now, I know Ali traveled a lot and he was the world champion, but he was always the A side. Even in the listing fights, when he was still a nobody, somehow, corruption, mafia, whatever. Ali was always the A side and he always got the benefit of the doubt. There was some of these fights where they treated Usyk fairly by calling a low blow, or not allowing Tyson Fury or AJ to just foul him all night. They treat the guy fairly, and there's controversy. You know what I mean? So, I'm not here to tell you that Usyk's resume is better than Muhammad Ali's. All that I'm saying is that people aren't looking at the facts fairly. And these analyses are so subjective, they're not really worth anything. So just to recap, Usyk's, the first half of his career where he fought guys bigger than the average Muhammad Ali opponent, okay? And so many of them undefeated, going into their hometowns, home countries, on the road. No controversy, no real controversy, just taking names, taking heads, right? That whole thing just gets ignored. Yeah? And then, the fact that he's undefeated, the fact that he beats these much bigger men at heavyweight now in their hometowns, where the best hope they have of winning is some fake fucking controversy. He's just knocking them all off. Somehow, this heavyweight division is weak, right? They're like 40 pounds bigger than the average Muhammad Ali opponent, and it's weak. They punch so much harder than the average Ali opponent. And, it's a weak division, right? Because Dubois quit. So did Frazier, so did Liston. And there were a few other, maybe not as notable guys. Like, what about Ali's quote-unquote win against Cooper? That's one he took on the road, right? Man, if that's Usyk, then he's knocked out. Get out of here. And that's a journeyman. Good fighter, but a journeyman. Come on, man. That somehow... and Cooper, what was he, 180 pounds soaking wet? Right? The bias is just incredible. Like... And these same people, right, will bring up nationality and the fact that Ukraine is like the darling of the West and all this other shit. Look, I'm not saying that doesn't play a role, but the best you could say the fact that the West is pro-Ukraine, some of it anyway, all that has afforded Usyk is fair fucking treatment. They didn't rob him, even though a lot of those cards are BS. They didn't rob him, and they, for the most part, enforced the rules of boxing in his big fights. So the best you could stretch that is it afforded him fair treatment in these fights. Whoop-de-fucking do. Anyway, again, I'm not here to tell you that Usyk's resume is better than Muhammad Ali's. His career is not over yet. Okay, he could win many more fights or maybe lose. We'll see what happens. But all I'm saying is that they're not looked at. Someone like Muhammad Ali is revered. People have been brainwashed, repeating his name and the name of his opponents, inflating these names way beyond the merit, right? Joe Frazier, what the fuck did Joe Frazier do at heavyweight? What did he do? Sorry, cruiserweight. What did he do at cruiserweight? And Usyk's legacy is relative to the legacy of someone like Muhammad Ali is underrated. That's all I'm here to tell you. I don't fucking care. I don't care because ultimately at the end of the day, no one will ever give you an objective analysis because it's impossible, and most of them will be terribly biased anyway, so who gives a shit? I know one thing. I believe one thing. If Usyk were to ever get in the ring with Muhammad Ali, I mean, it wouldn't even be a contest.